parts of the country. A list of those schools is on the left. There's many more schools that are going to be added going forward. If you're an industry executive with an interest in connecting with one of these schools to support their program, to learn more, and to try to get involved in the upskilling of technicians, send me a message. Now it's time for the Q&A session. Paul, I want to ask you the first question, if I could. One came up, it's the ratio of students to the device. Somebody presented a question that said he has a 25 student classroom, and how many devices would be practical, recognizing there's a lot of e-learning involved?
That's a really good question, Steve. A lot of the skills involve working with different pieces and parts of the system. I don't know that at various times, more students could be on the system than at other times. If somebody's doing a troubleshooting exercise, it probably becomes a 1 or 2 student training station. But when they're working on different parts, like there are skills for adjusting a sensor, or maybe skills for changing out a belt. So I think you could have as many as 4 to 6 students working on it at one time. And as you pointed out, the virtual trainers provide a tremendous amount of expansion of that space. And also some of the skills that they're performing on SkillBoss, they could perform on other training devices that they might have in the lab. So if they had a pneumatics trainer, they may do something on the pneumatics trainer that parallels what they're doing on SkillBoss, and that would provide some additional training as well. But you know, with a class of 25, having more than one device would certainly be of high value. And I think that if they also have some auxiliary training devices, that would support that class very well.
Great, thank you, Paul. And recognizing that the SkillBoss Logistics device is both for education and training, as well as skill assessment. So if MSSC is involved in an assessment part of earning a certification, that's going to be, the device will be dedicated to that student or to that person trying to earn the certification, which is a little different than a broader learning environment. So, and then the other question that came in, Paul, one other question that came in was the question of the footprint, kind of how much space is required for all the elements of the device.
That's the good news. At least from my perspective anyway, when I look at systems in a real distribution center, it still marvels. I find a marvel that they fit this into a 34-inch by 96-inch space. So that's a pretty, about 8 foot by 34 inches is what you need. And you really don't need much, just the walk around room that you would have around that.
Great, great. And there's toward the end, you shared a slide related to the Master Trainer Training Program. And Neil, if you could talk a little bit about the strategy of, I know MSSC has assessment centers and partners all across the country, and I think 49 states. What sort of a vision does MSSC have for getting the Master Trainer training sites in different parts of the country, recognizing that as we go forward, not everybody can travel to Amatrol for Master Trainer training? Paul, if you want to field that.
Yeah, hi there. I think, can you hear me now, Steve?
There we go. Okay.
Okay, sorry, I've been muted there. So our goal and our dream, if you will, is to have regional training centers, whether those be mostly at technical and community colleges. And I know it looks like we already have several in place that we're participating in the whole NSF ATE National Center program that have been working with you, Steve. And the ideal is that within either one region or multiple regions in a state, obviously depending on the size of the state, that the community and technical colleges that are offering, let's say, the master training for the SkillBoss, the CTSTA program, would offer face-to-face training for instructors in their area. So at regional, other technical and community colleges, we hope one of these might be able to be offered in high schools, maybe equipment maintenance. We're not sure yet. It's a very high level. But the instructor training would actually be done at a regional local level. And Amatrol's, of course, job would be to train these master train the trainers, if you will, originally at the Amatrol location. And then once they're trained as master trainers, they can go out. And we're expecting actually instructor training for each one of these certifications. Each one of these certifications is 100, looking at probably at least 170 hours. So, each one of these, whether it's equipment maintenance, repair, network repair, would require its own instructor training. If there were another, let's say, community or technical college in the region that wanted let's say a 5-day training to go through all 3 with an instructor in that area, that master training center that has gone through the Amatrol master training would help those regional schools. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Neil. And we're getting some questions about, is CPT a prerequisite to CTSCA?
No, it is not.
Okay.
We would recommend safety and quality possibly as recommended, but it is not, no.
Okay, thank you. And there's a question that came in related to, obviously with COVID in front of us and the ever evolving changes with students going to school and instructors being in the classroom, questions come up about kind of online master trainer training and kind of what's the plan. I know there'll be some training of a master trainer at Amatrol in the fall, but some schools or some instructors might not be able to board an airplane and come to that. If you're regional, obviously you can drive in, or companies who want to send people in can send people in. But maybe Paul, if you could speak to that.
Yes, there's, I think, a couple of ways that we can handle that. One, we certainly had envisioned that after the initial training that we would have some of the regional training centers set up around the country where people could go there. Another option that we plan to offer, and we've actually been doing work on this summer. We run teacher training classes for a lot of different technologies over the years. They've all been in person. This year we realized that was going to be a challenge. And so we invested in a significant amount of distance learning technology. And so we're actually running hybrid classes and where we have a class here and we may have 2 to 6 people in a large room. They're all distanced with individual pieces of equipment. And we're planning to do this for Skill Boss as well. When the training starts up, is we'll have separate training units for each person that is here in person. But if somebody has the equipment at their lab, they could actually go through the class in a remote learning operation where they're actually connected in through distance learning to our instructor and able to just do their activity right there. And we have 2-way visuals so that we can see what they're doing. So there are ways to be able to do it. It obviously takes the hands-on capability has to be there local wherever they're going through the training.
Great. Paul, and real quick, we have about 1 more minute for Q&A. A quick question about the power requirement. What is the power requirement for the device?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. So I needed Mike to do that. Thank you, Mike. Power requirements, it's single phase and it can run on, if it's international, it can run on 230, 50, or if it's domestic here, it'd be 120, 60, and the total amps are within a 20 amp circuit breaker.
Great, thank you so much. With that said, we're wrapping up today's webinar. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be sending out a survey immediately following, which will give you an opportunity, if you're an academic, to submit a little bit of your information, contact information for follow-up by the National Center. And also, if you're an industry person with an interest in engaging the center at a broader level, you have that opportunity as well. But it's a quick 1 or 2 minute survey response. We appreciate that. And then in general, the webinar data and the PowerPoints, we've had a lot of questions about that. and the PowerPoints will be available in the days to come. It'll take us a couple of days to turn this around because we are going to be editing and putting closed captioning onto the video, into the video itself of the webinar. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for participating and supporting the National Center, MSSC and Amatrol in this webinar to educate you about kind of next generation workforce certification. Thank you so much, and we look forward to collaborating and working with you in the future.
Attendees join me in